Hello and welcome to the Wilder Lincolnshire podcast from the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust. I'm Melvin Pryor. With me today, Professor Libby John at the University of Lincoln. Hello.
Hi Melvin.
You brought the sun out.
We have, yeah. It's a beautiful day, isn't it?
It's gorgeous. We're talking about all sorts of things here, but in detail, we want to talk a bit about how people get into conservation and careers in conservation. So let's start with you. When did that interest start?
I've always been interested in wildlife, wildflowers, ever since I was a little girl. So that was an inspiration from my family, my grandmother, my next door neighbour. It's the people you meet, isn't it, who get you started.
Did you grow up in the countryside?
No, but I was lucky enough to have a grandmother who lived in the country, so that was nice. But I always loved being outdoors.
But that's interesting. See, I naturally said in the countryside, but we've got wildlife, nature in our towns and cities as well.
Absolutely. There are lots of things that live in towns and cities. So, for instance, here we have over 40 species of wildflower just around this pond that we're standing in front of, that nobody's planted, they just live here. So isn't that amazing?
So as a youngster, did you get involved with pond dipping and those sorts of things as well?
Yes, and field trips. Through in the days when A-level students did residential field trips, they were inspirational as well. So, yeah, lots of opportunities to be out and about.
And was there wildlife and conservation in the school curriculum before you moved on to university?
No, this was long ago, Melvin. So let's be honest, we were concerned. I think Silent Spring had been out for about 10 years when I went to university, or maybe it was in the ether anyway. So if you remember that book that was very instrumental in getting people thinking about conservation. But the conservation movement as a whole was, I think, just getting going in those days.
Did you have in your mind that that's the direction and the career you wanted to have?
Well, not just that. I knew I was fascinated by ecology and plant ecology, and I wanted to do research. So that's what took me forwards, and that's where I gained my knowledge base and gained so much experience working at different universities in different countries around the world, in different ecosystems. So I was very lucky to have that background and experience.
And where did you study at university?
I studied at Sussex as an undergraduate doing biology, and then went on to Imperial College London to do environmental technology, and then I did my PhD at the University of Alberta in Canada, where I did a PhD working in the Rocky Mountains, which was wonderful. Absolutely spectacular place to work.
How long were you there for?
4 years.
And then how did that lead to a career? What did you decide to do with those qualifications and things you'd learned?
Well, I went on to an academic career, which is why I'm here now. I found that I loved teaching. So with those qualifications, I got a permanent role at a university and was able to engage in research and teaching, and found that I love both equally. And inspiring students about the natural world, I think, is perhaps the thing I'm most passionate about.
I was going to say, that is your passion. It's teaching the next generation, isn't it?
Yes, and allowing them to see, which is the subject today, that there is a role for them in conservation, a really important role in conservation and in sustainability more generally. That's so important, that they can feel empowered, that they can make a difference.
And in the time that you've been teaching, have you noticed more and more people wanting to get into conservation and finding out more?
I think so. I mean, yes, there are more jobs in conservation and clearer career paths than there were back in the 80s when I was a fresh graduate. So there are a lot more jobs in conservation than there were then, and I think many more opportunities. So yes, as the possibilities grow, the opportunities grow, more people see that it can be for them.
And not just the students on the courses you're involved with. Do you feel that generally in the environment of the university, young people are more interested in conservation and nature as well?
I think they're interested in sustainability. They want to live on a planet that has a future, and that that applies to all students. So they might not think about nature conservation specifically, but there's a role for them. Really, there's a whole range of skills that can feed into nature conservation. The students who are here with us today are studying on degrees that directly relate to nature and conservation, but whether you're a computer scientist, an accountant, an artist, you can have a role in conservation. We need them all.
You haven't got to be the one in waders in the pond clearing it out.
You haven't got to have that, and you don't have to have that necessarily, that skill set. There are so many skills that conservation charities and conservation organisations need, the whole gamut of skills that you could learn at a university.
You're the chair of the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust, and we met on one of the walks and one of the other podcasts that we were recording. You were on your bike though, weren't you?
I was. I had a challenge to visit all the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust reserves by bike, which I finished at the end of August in 2024. It was an amazing challenge. Lincolnshire is an incredible county with so much to offer and so many wonderful wildlife sites.
And what about careers and opportunities? What sort of things are the students learning here on the courses you're involved with?
Well, they're learning a lot about habitats, about species, about ecology and the principles of ecology. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years is how the basic principles of ecology have become embedded in conservation. So we're learning more and more about how to manage ecosystems and let go of ecosystems so they can manage themselves. So students will learn all of that. They'll learn to identify plants and animals, they'll learn to handle data, they'll learn communication skills, they'll learn to talk to people from different disciplines, they'll learn a whole lot of skills that they'll use in a career in conservation.
And there are actual jobs at the end of it all, because we often hear about, yes, you can study for this and study for that, but people, bottom line, have to earn a living as well, don't they?
They do have to earn a living, and yes, there are jobs in conservation. At the moment, because of government initiatives like Biodiversity Net Gain, there are jobs in planning, there are jobs working with developers, there are jobs with a whole range of organisations that provide biodiversity credits. There are jobs in the rewilding estates, of which there are several around Lincolnshire, as well as the environmental charities like the wildlife trusts. So yes, there's a lot of jobs out there at the moment. We just need great people to go and fill them.
We mentioned that your passion is plants, and we mentioned the fact we're beside a pond here on the site of the university in Lincoln, and looking around here, yes, there's grass that goes down to it, there's reeds and other sort of shrubbery around the edge as well, but you said that you've done walks here and seen so many different sorts of plant.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just lightly managed, this area around here, by our wonderful estates team, and I can take a walk right around here in my lunchtime break and find 40 plus different species of plants. It's a wonderful place. I'm sure there's more than that if I had longer to look, because that's what plants do, and they are there if we just take the trouble to look, and if we allow them to grow, they will grow. And
that's also the joy of wildlife and nature, is that it will take over an area and make it its own, won't it?
Absolutely, if we let it. And that's one of the wonderful things that we're discovering, is that nature can recover. Some brilliant examples in our own wildlife trust in Lincolnshire, Willow Tree Fen, for instance. We bought some arable fields, and 15 years later there are beautiful marshlands supporting cranes and lots of other wonderful wildlife that we never thought we'd see back in Lincolnshire. Nature recovers. That's such a positive message, and we need positive messages right now.
Well, in the last podcast we were out at RAF Woodall Spa. You know, a classic example there. It was an airfield, now it's full of wildlife and nature.
Exactly, and in fact one of the things I learnt on my tour of Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust nature reserves is very many of them are old industrial sites, they're old quarries, they're old clay pits, old gravel pits, and as soon as the industry stops, wildlife comes back in, and the airfield is another example of that. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Well, keep passing on your passion for wildlife, nature and conservation to the next generations.
Oh, thank you, Melvin. I'll do my best.
So we're talking about careers in wildlife conservation, and we're at the University of Lincoln. We've spoken to Professor Libby John, but chance to meet some of the students now. Hello, who are you?
I'm Raul. I'm doing a PhD in psychology after completing a degree in zoology and a master's degree in biodiversity conservation and nature recovery.
So why conservation and nature for you then?
I think it was just from a young age, from working for my local conservation group or just being in my back garden. I fell in love with nature. I knew this was the kind of career that I wanted to follow, and this is what I wanted to dedicate my life to, protecting nature, and being able, just learning it either throughout my education, especially coming to university and specialising in zoology and ecology. I just knew that I wanted to have a career in nature. Particularly, I fell in love with birds, and I particularly want to work in avian conservation, and that's something which aligns with my PhD and I hope to do after I complete my time at Lincoln.
And you're hoping this will lead to a job, obviously?
Yes, so I'm hoping after I complete my PhD in 3.5 years' time that I will be able to go into avian conservation research. So I co-lead the Lincoln Swan Project. So I'm hoping after my PhD I'll have a lot of experience with swans.
Did you realise before you came to Lincoln there were so many swans on the Brayford?
Not a lot, to be honest. And to be honest, my experience with the swans was only meant to be 6 weeks, but it's going to be 8 years by the time I finish my PhD, and hopefully many more years after that with my career with swans and other birds.
Excellent. Hello, you are?
I'm Georgie, and I'm studying my Masters in Biodiversity Conservation and Nature Recovery.
And again, for you, how did it all start?
My dad, actually, from a very young age, who would take us, we lived on a farm, take us for massive walks, get us involved in nature. We'd carry back giant puffballs, sit on shooting towers for hours watching birds with binoculars, and it really ignited in me that that's something I really wanted to do in my future.
So why decide to go the university route to do it?
So I did my undergrad remotely through the Open Uni. It took me a lot of years. I did a few different modules with the environment, and I picked and chose and got a combined STEM in the end. And I applied to about 300 jobs in Norfolk, and I heard back from absolutely nothing at all to do with conservation or anything I really, really wanted to do. So I realised if I wanted that door to open, I'd have to come back into education. I've been to Lincoln before, it's a beautiful place, and the lecturers here are so passionate about conservation. I'm so glad I've come here.
What I'm keen to hear here is it didn't knock you back not getting a positive response from anybody or any response from anybody.
Not really, no. In fact, it made me actually more determined. I kind of looked at what are my weaknesses. Well, I haven't got much volunteering experience then. And a lot of the things I was applying to said you needed the masters to even get your foot in the door. So it's a little bit frustrating when you've got a passion to do something so much. But then coming here, so many other doors have opened that I didn't even expect to. And hopefully, that's why I say hopefully I'll get a job at the end of it. But if not, I'll just keep going until I do.
Excellent. Look, we'll talk more about some of the opportunities in a minute. Hello, you are?
Hiya, my name's Grace. I'm doing a Masters by Research in Evolutionary Ecology at Lincoln, having done my undergrad here in zoology.
And again, same for you. Where did it all start?
So, yeah, similar to what people have said here, very young age, always loved nature, always loved wildlife, always loved animals. Knew I wanted to help animals. And yeah, it being instilled in me with my parents as well about being curious about the natural world and going out and getting dirty in soil and enjoying all sorts of wildlife. It really, from a young age got that passion going, and that's just been fueled across my life.
And what are you hoping that will lead to for you in the future?
So my downfall is I'm excited and interested in too much, but I think a real passion for me is education, teaching, raising awareness. I love the idea of going into conservation education for that reason. So I'd love to take what I've learned and what others learn around me and encourage young people and people of all ages to appreciate wildlife more, especially as sadly we're losing so much of it now.
So hello, who are you?
Hi, I'm Michael. So I'm a second year ecology and conservation student here at the University of Lincoln. I was very lucky to grow up in the New Forest, so I just grew up in this wonderful environment full of nature that obviously we just want to protect now. I actually went a very different route, and I went into a career in IT. So a sort of not the traditional route that you would expect to go into conservation, but sort of as I was going through that career, I would still be looking out the window at the nature that I grew up with, and so I decided to take the leap a couple of years ago to finally push myself in to maybe see if I can use some of the skills I've gained through the computing background to maybe see if I can use that to maybe go into career in conservation, so I can combine my two loves in life.
That's a big decision to do that, though, isn't it? It's a big step to do.
Absolutely terrifying, I have to admit. When I told my friends and family, they were just like, goodness me. I said I'm going to move to the other side of the country and I'm going to go and study my passion, but goodness me, university had changed my life, and it's just been absolutely superb.
We were talking earlier about some of the things that people get involved with outside of the uni. It's not just coming in here and studying, and you're very much involved with groups in the local area already, aren't you?
Absolutely, yeah. So I do a number of things. I'm quite heavily involved with the local RFPB group, so I'm their university ambassador, and what we've been doing, we've been running some trips out into Lincolnshire itself. We've been to Gibraltar Point and Faring, bringing 10 students on each trip, and it's been a wonderful sort of collaboration within the group, where we've had a number of the local members of the RFPB local group along with the students. So it's been a great way to sort of share the knowledge across the generation and to get students who may not have seen any part of Lincolnshire before. So it's been absolutely stunning. It's been a massive success, and we can't wait to continue doing that further around 2025.
The lovely thing is you're all on different courses, but you've all bumped into each other by doing some of these outside things.
Yes, absolutely. Raoul and I did our zoology undergrad together, so we know each other from that. But we also ended up working on different extracurriculars together too. Michael, I've met and I'm now working with to do nature positive university work. We're both student ambassadors at the uni for that. And I met you just yesterday doing the mammal workshops and the amazing thing you're doing with the university students here.
So I suppose when people come away to university, it's trying to find some of these extra activities that are going on, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you really jump in feet first and you have a look around, there's so many things. I'm doing a 3-month challenge at the minute, the University Mammal Challenge. You can only do when you're a student at uni. Not that many people know about it, but it's an amazing opportunity to learn a lot of mammal skills that you just don't get from the course. There's so much packed into it, but you need to find the extracurriculars to put on the CV to really stand out at the end of it.
What is the mammal challenge then? Have I got to go and find some mammals running around?
Well, actually, it's with the Mammal Society. Everyone could help by downloading the Mammal Mapper app, actually, and logging sightings of mammals whenever you see them anywhere in the UK, just to really help pinpoint where they are so we can look at conservation. But we're doing transect walks. We put on an owl palette dissection event yesterday, actually, where lots of people
they're fast.
came.
I remember those from school. Brilliant
Yeah.
stuff, isn't it?
It was really, really good fun. I think we found 54 different dead rodents and things, so it was really, really good. And we've got trips to schools that I'm doing, also with the estates team. If you really reach out to people, no one knows you want to walk through the door unless you knock on it, so you do have to really put yourself forward and put yourself out there to get anything given to you. And if you show that you're passionate about it, people really do want to help you come into the conservation sector.
And we know you're interested in the swans.
Yes.
Have there been other projects that you're also involved with locally?
Yes, so I'm part of the Lincolnshire Bat Group as well. So I actually started working with bats through a university project. It was sort of through a lecture. I started working for a Dorperton's Bats project, so that I was looking where Dorperton bats are roosting around Lincoln, and from that I've extended a lot with my work with the bat group. So I do a lot of hibernation surveys, either here up at the castle as well, and all across Lincolnshire. And I've also recently become Bat County Recorder for Lincolnshire as well.
Do we have many bats?
In Lincolnshire, yes, we do have a lot. We have a lot of bats. Not so much at the castle. I know we've not got a lot of hibernating bats there, unfortunately, but we've got some places at Withcall. There's about 300 bats there. In Tattershall's about 1,000 in their church over there. So we had quite a lot of bats around. But generally, bats are declining across the UK. But organisations like the Bat Group are doing a lot of work to bring those numbers up. I'm also part of the Lincolnshire Dormouse group as well, and they do a lot of surveys in Chambers Farms Wood. So I'm currently trained to get my dormouse licence. So they do nest box checks throughout the dormouse season, April to October, checking them, weighing them, sexing them, all that kind of thing. Yeah.
It's really interesting because we were talking about this frustration of if you haven't got the qualifications or you haven't got the experience, how do you get the job? And is this part and parcel of it, not just doing the qualifications here at the university, getting that outside experience as well?
I would say definitely. Unfortunately, there is understandably as well, there's a lot of focus on getting things on your CV. There is a lot in the wildlife sector from what I've experienced of even if you've got a degree, they look for experience, and you do get stuck sometimes in that if you haven't got experience, how do you get the job that then will give you experience? But I think that again just reinforces the importance of reaching out, of not being afraid to ask people at university or lecturers, but also Google is a great source, genuinely. A lot of the things I've found are just through Googling, especially online courses that you can do. So I've done quite a few courses now with the Field Studies Council, for example, to do with field skills and ID that I wouldn't necessarily get on my degree, and I've been able to do them online alongside. So there's a lot out there, there really is.
Indeed, and you were only out this morning, out at Wilder Doddington. Tell us a bit about what you were doing out there.
Yeah, fantastic. So I've been working with Wilder Doddington since last summer. Myself and quite a few of my course mates like to get down there at least once a week, just sort of get involved in everything going on there. Because they're a rewilding project and such a young rewilding project, the changes are they're so obvious and they're so sort of happening sort of so quickly. So one thing we're able to get down there, we're able to get like lots of practical skills, but practical skills that are making an absolute tangible difference now. And we're coming back after, say, removing some ragwort or planting a tree, and this is, a real like top 5 UK rewilding project, which is just a wonderful thing to be involved with. And like I said, I know it's about ticking boxes and getting stuff on your CV, but from a personal level, you can talk about that to an interviewer. You can sort of show that you have passion for what you're doing, and you can back it up by having tangible, hard skills.
What would you say to somebody looking to get a career in conservation? What would your advice be to them?
I think, similar to what we've said before, really, it's really important to look for things outside of your degree. Obviously, you learn a huge amount with undergraduate and postgraduate study, but there's also a lot of networking that is really beneficial, and going to different events and volunteering at different things, like Global Bird Fairy for a birder is amazing for networking. I've been to research conferences as well, where I've met people and heard about current research to do with conservation that then I've shared with others. And I think it's, sharing is so important, and building that CV, and it's amazing how rewarding it gets. So you may start it to tick a box, but actually the more you do, the more you want to do, and the more people you meet, and it just becomes a really nice community as well.
Anything to add to that?
I think also use LinkedIn and really connect with people even further out than what you know in person, because opportunities come up all the time that you wouldn't even see. And I would definitely say just keep trying. If all the doors are closed, try and work out why, and then go and fix the reason why. Maybe you need more volunteering, maybe you just don't know the right people at the right time, but if you keep going, something good will happen.
We're out at the University of Lincoln. We're talking about careers in conservation, and Ed Kirby's with me. Ed, you're wearing the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust branding because you are a new recruit, really, aren't you?
Yes, I am. I'm the new conservation officer.
Let's talk a bit about your journey to getting to this job with the Wildlife Trust. So when did your interest in conservation and wildlife start?
Since as early as I can remember, to be honest, always been fascinated by the natural world, always loved being outdoors, looking for things. It's always been a passion of mine.
So did you think it would become a career or not?
I think I've always been hopeful, and to be honest, from the people that I've been surrounded with, it's always been made out to be an option. So I feel like I'm very fortunate in that. At no point has anyone said to me this isn't an option. It's always been sort of in my peripheral. So yeah, definitely.
As a lad, did you get involved with local wildlife groups or anything like that?
Not so much getting directly involved with local wildlife groups as a lad. I'd say when I was younger, very much my dad, my granddad were really big influences on me, always taking me out into the garden, going around parks, looking for things. So yeah, more informal when I was younger.
Okay, so then you get to career decisions and whether you go to university or what you do. What did you decide to do?
So I think I always knew that I wanted to go to university. So one of my A-levels, I studied biology, chemistry and environmental science, so very much tailored to the natural world. And I decided to take biology and marine biology at university. I always was especially interested in the sea and marine life, But at the same time, the natural world, that's the main thing for me. So Southampton offering a joint course of biology and marine biology was absolutely perfect, and it was definitely the right choice.
And marine conservation has become your thing, hasn't it?
Well, in the last 6 months, I was actually a marine intern with Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust, and that programme is run and funded by the Crown Estate. An amazing programme, so the last 6 months, thoroughly enjoyed.
Well, we met last year at the Lincolnshire show when you were there telling people a little bit more about the project. So for those that didn't hear that or come along to the event, tell us what was involved with it.
So it's, like I say, it's a 6-month programme run by the Crown Estate, and it's really tailored to people looking to get into the marine conservation sector. So the last 6 months going all around the coast in England, meeting different organisations, attending conferences, taking part in field work. Yeah, amazing.
Tell us a bit about the field work, because it's getting some hand-on experience there, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So one of the key pieces of field work that I took part in was going to Spurn Point. Now, Spurn Point is the site of marine restoration in a project called the Wilder Humber Project, and we were at Spurn Point on a day like this actually, but it was the middle of summer, so it was really, really amazing weather, and we were collecting seagrass seeds. So that involves lying down on bodyboards and picking at the seagrass fronds and collecting seeds.
How fantastic. And but something that will stay with you forever.
Absolutely. I mean, the way that I look at it is that was paid work, right? You know, it's just absolutely amazing to be able to do that, to be in a beautiful place such as Spurn, in good company, doing really positive work. That's the main thing for the environment.
Interesting. We were hearing from the students, and we were talking about the importance of getting experience. Whatever you do, it helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So in my final year of university, I took it upon myself, with some prompting from my father, put it that way. He's been, like I say, a real inspiration to me my whole life. But I took it on myself to find some volunteering work in my final year. So I volunteered with the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust. I was a volunteer warden, and that involved just checking one of my local sites once a week. And what I also did was I found some paid work in marine surveying. So I asked my tutor at university to provide me with some of the local firms, their names, their contact details in the area, and then I emailed all of them, and one of them got back to me. So yeah, very much being proactive, I think, has set me up for this experience.
And you've got to be persistent as well. What struck me is, chatting with you, but also the other students we talked to, you've all got that passion, and you know that's what you want to do. You've got to keep at it, haven't you? It's not easy.
It's not easy, but I think with this sector and people who really do want to work in conservation, it comes naturally, I think, because on one hand it is a job, you know, it's going to sustain you for your life, but on the other hand, genuine keenness and passion to be involved in this. Like I say, to be doing some of the work that I've done in a paid capacity is just amazing. I feel very thankful for it. So although it can be difficult, it's the passion that really keeps that running.
Is this a dream job for you then, conservation officer at the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's definitely a dream first job, I can say that much, just to be in this sector at Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust, who have been absolutely amazing. Like I said, I spent the last 6 months on the marine internship working at Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust, an amazing organisation. They do amazing work. So everything considered, yeah, it is a dream job.
And what would you say to somebody listening to this, thinking, I wonder if I should go into wildlife nature conservation as a career?
I think the easy thing to say is look for volunteering experience, because obviously you can do that as you please. You can do as much or as little as you want, and you really do get a good insight into how these organisations work with volunteering. They always need volunteers, and so then you can see if you enjoy the work, you can ask questions. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Well, good luck in the new role.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed. And that's it for another Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust Wilder Lincolnshire podcast, this month focusing on careers in conservation.